16th and 17th ranked featherweights, if they kept track of those things. Coming up this weekend, it's the prospect, change the nickname, Nathaniel Wood taking on Touchy FIli, Andre FIli. Matt, when we look at a fight like this, both these two guys victorious in their last bouts. And if you look at it for Nathaniel Wood, already a tidy 2-0 since moving up to 145. The former Cage Warriors champ is Nathaniel Wood. Now, both these guys, their last fights, their last wins, you think, hey, we're riding momentum. Those fights were back in September of last year. It was a knee injury to Nathaniel Wood. He posted it on his Instagram. Looked like he slipped in wrestling practice and cut just below his knee, so he was out of a scheduled bout against Lerone Murphy, who ended up fighting against Gabriel Santos. You can check out that Lerone Murphy fight against Culibao here on the channel. But for Wood, he moves it forward. That fight was due earlier this year. Andre FIli was due a fight earlier on this year, but kind of a freak eye injury that was really scary for Andre FIli. He gets emergency surgery, gets that one corrected, and now FIli gets back into a fight like this. And if you look at it for FIli's last time out, he wins a split decision over Bill Algeo. And I don't know what fight Chris Lee was watching, because he's the only one that scored it for Bill Algeo. But I thought Andre FIli convincingly won 2 rounds in that fight. So FIli, I mean, with the head kicks, he cuts Algeo early. Even by the 3rd round, even if Algeo wins the 3rd round, Algeo's face was a crimson mask, as they say. So for Andre FIli, great opportunity in this fight. Tricky from both stances. Really good with all parts and parcels of his game. He does have decent volume. Obviously, Wood's got him beat in that game. But if you look at Wood against Charles Jourdain, you could see a method of victory for him against Andre FIli.
Well, let's think about Nathaniel Wood. I liken his increase in weight up to 145 a little bit to Robert Whittaker going from 170 to 185. And I say it for this reason. It's helped him improve upon the one thing that was holding him back at 135. Nathaniel Wood, you're right. He does have great volume. He really is that in-your-face kind of fighter. But he'd be that for about 2 rounds. And then in that 3rd round, a lot of guys could start to, I'm not saying they beat him, but they would start to open that door and make the fight a lot more interesting. I think at 145, it allows Nathaniel Wood to fight in that manner for all 3 rounds, and that's going to be really important against a guy like Andre FIli, who we know for his lasting ability. And the thing about FIli that I've always liked is, I bring it up every video, and
he didn't have lasting ability against Joanderson Brito.
He didn't have, but Joanderson Brito hit him with a big shot early and finished him. There's not a lot you can do there. FIli's not a guy who's going to fight at such a high pace, though, in the 1st and 2nd round, that he won't be there in the 3rd round for himself. But the thing I want to bring up is, FIli's offensive wrestling isn't something that a lot of people give him credit for, but in a lot of his fights that he is able to go out there and win, he's getting his opponent's respect with that offensive wrestling. And for being at that kind of long range, not necessarily kick heavy striker, but being a guy who fights from so far away, you don't really expect that from his game, but he's been able to go out there and take down very high level wrestlers in the past, and I'll be curious to see if he uses that against a guy like Nathaniel Wood, who used the leg kick quite a bit, which I think is going to be a huge part of his game against Andre FIli, but also is that in your face kind of guy, and I think FIli with his takedown attempts and the kicks will at least be able to disrupt some of that rhythm from a guy like Nathaniel Wood.
A little over 2 1/3 takedowns per 15 minutes for Andre FIli in his UFC career. Couple of performance bonuses out there for him. One over Shimon Moraes and another one that he picked up over Gabriel Benitez, where he finished him. So some pretty good stuff for FIli. He's been around the UFC for a very long time. Team Alpha Male staple. It's like him, Uriah Faber, Chad Mendez, and
Cody
then, of course, the damage, Darren Elkins. No, because Cody Garbrandt.
I guess he left. But...
Yeah, Cody Garbrandt's been bouncing around. For Nathaniel Wood, you've seen him at a Great Britain top team. An awesome performance on short notice where he had John Castaneda enter the fray. Brendan Fitzgerald said enter the fray way too much yesterday.
That was a great fight against Casey Kenny.
It's in my head. The Casey Kenny fight was great, but Casey Kenny off with 2 losses. The Song Yadong loss. See you later. Hasn't fought in over 2 years. Matt, for Nathaniel Wood, again, you look at the volume numbers, 6.34 to 4.42 absorbed significant strikes per minute. For Andre FIli, 3.83 to 4.03. So it's a negative differential for FIli, overwhelmingly positive for Wood, albeit at 135 for the majority.
This is a question I want to pose to you, because we bring it up a lot when we talk about Mateusz Gamrot, right? He fought in a lot of pretty crazy fights in the regional scene. And I'm not saying it affects him all that much nowadays, but when he gets hit by big shots, we kind of know what the result is. Do you worry a little bit about Nathaniel Wood and the amount of crazy fights he had before he came to the UFC? Because he's been in the UFC for enough now. You bring up the prospect, now I should probably retire that nickname. He fought in some wild Cage Warriors fights before he ever made it to the UFC, and I always worry about whether or not those kind of chipped away at the durability before he ever made it to the big show.
I don't think it scares people. He's more than a 2-1 favorite in the matchup, and if we have a look at the fan vote on Topology, it would not surprise me.
Favorite.
Yeah, I'm going to say over under 77.5% Wood.
I assume it'll be in the 80s.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. 853 total votes, 91% Wood, 83% by decision for the 9% that have FIli, 60% by decision. And obviously FIli also fought Charles Jourdain. It was about 3 years ago. It was the one where they read out that it's a split and Charles puts his arms up like, what are you doing? But if you look at it for FIli, I'd say the more well-rounded fighter out of these two, but when it does come down to the strike and the volume, I favor the much, and you can see it right there. Like, he's at a massive 5-inch height advantage and a massive 5-inch reach advantage, and FIli uses those really well. You saw that out of the head kicks against a bigger guy in Bill Algeo for the division his last time out. I do like Wood's ability to get in and get out, so I will go with Wood in this matchup, but this is a tough one. It really is.
It is. I think the leg kicks are going to make FIli a much more stationary target as this fight does progress. Now, it's still a very dangerous fight for Nathaniel Wood, but it at least makes his opponent that much more available to be hit as this fight continues. This could be a sneaky fight of the night, though, without a doubt. Like, Andre FIli has been in there with some of the best fighters in the world. You probably remember the crazy Yair Rodriguez knockout he was able to score over FIli. He's fought Max Holloway, too. Like, Andre FIli has had an absurd level of competition throughout his UFC tenure. That's kind of why he's 22-9. It's nothing against his skill set. I just favor Nathaniel Wood in this fight.
Both of us going with the prospect Nathaniel Wood in the matchup. Next fight on the card, it's a co-main event. Molly McCann's fighting Yulia Stoliarenko, 1-5 in the UFC on that Zhumagulov. And let us know who you have down below in these matchups. Keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks, we always say. Let's get into it.